I got my first cell phone in the late 1980s. I owned a construction company, and my partner and I needed a way to stay in touch during the day. If one of us was on a job site and the other was somewhere else, we could at least reach out to each other without driving all over the county looking for one another. It was a tool, that's my point. That's all it was. You made a call, you received a call. Then you got back to work. Nobody carried it around hoping something interesting would happen. Nobody checked it every 5 minutes. Nobody felt anxious if it wasn't within arm's reach. Looking back, it seems almost hard to imagine now, doesn't it? Somewhere along the line, the phone stopped being a tool and became something else, a replacement for real human interaction. People under 40, you probably can't imagine what life was like before cell phones. You've seen pictures of it hanging on the wall or sitting on top of a desk. You left the house and nobody knew where you were. If you were driving, fishing, sitting on the porch, visiting a friend, you were simply unavailable. And guess what? It was okay. Nobody panicked. Nobody expected an instant response. If somebody needed you, they waited till you got home. And somehow the world survived. And I have to admit now, today, if my wife is babysitting the grandchildren, I want her to have her phone with her in case something goes wrong, even though there's a landline in the house. My addiction, and that's what that is like many others. The phone has become a pacifier, or worse. The promise of the original cell phone, what? Was simple. Stay connected with each other. And in a lot of ways, it worked well. I can talk to family instantly. I can send pictures. I can video chat with people thousands of miles away. There's some real advantages to it, but, I wouldn't want to give it all up. But I sometimes wonder if we got more than we bargained for. These days, I carry my phone from room to room within the house. Kitchen, living room, office, bedroom. And that's because I don't have a pouch for it like I used to. But I make sure I've got it in my hand and I carry it to the next spot. Not because I'm expecting an emergency. Not because somebody desperately needs me. But mostly because I've gotten used to having it nearby. I'm addicted. It's right here. Throughout the day, I find myself checking email, Facebook, YouTube, the news, and whatever else happens to be sitting there waiting for me. I joke with my family and friends that I'm waiting for the president to call. He hasn't called yet. But I keep checking anyway. And here's the strange part, and I don't think I'm unusual. We laugh at teenagers who can't put their phones down. We shake our heads at young people sitting together staring at screens instead of talking to each other. And then we go home and we do much the same thing. It might not be TikTok and Snapchat, if that's even a thing still, but like I said, I'll look at Facebook, news sites, email, weather updates. I'm not a guy with sports, but people that are looking at sports scores. The details are all different, but the habit is the same. We've convinced ourselves we're checking because something important might have happened. Most of the time, we're checking because checking has become the default activity. Gives us a feeling of security. It's crazy, isn't it? Standing in line, check the phone. Waiting for an appointment, check the phone. Commercial comes on television, check the phone. A few minutes of quiet, check the phone. And that's where I think the real issue may be. For most of human history, people spent time alone with their thoughts. I know I do, or I did anyway. I'm trying to get back to it. Driving down the road, sitting on a porch, working in the garden, fishing, walking, waiting. There were quiet times in our lives naturally, and we usually enjoyed them. Nobody thought much about them because they were just normal. You just think. Today, those moments, for the most part, I think have disappeared. The moment we get quiet or silence shows up, out comes the phone. The minute boredom appears, out comes the phone. The moment we're left alone with our thoughts, we reach for something to fill the space. And maybe that's what doesn't add up, guys. We've spent years talking about connection. Maybe the bigger issue is that we've forgotten how to be alone. Not lonely, just alone. There's a big difference. Being lonely means feeling isolated from other people. Being alone means sitting quietly with your own thoughts. For most of my life, that was normal. And now it almost feels uncomfortable. Even when I'm sitting over here in front of the computer doing my writing work, I see that if I've got an extra 30 seconds while I'm waiting for chat to do something, I'm checking Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn. It's insane. I wonder how many good things come from those quiet moments that I used to have. Thinking, reflecting, praying, working through some problems, remembering, just planning. Most of my best ideas did not come to me while I was scrolling through a screen. They showed up while I was driving somewhere, sitting on a porch, or working with my hands and thinking. And I don't know about you, but for me, those moments seem harder to find now. The strange thing, we've never been more connected in one sense. We can communicate with people around the world in seconds. We get to see our grandkids, and I'm grateful for that, instantly. We can talk face to face with people thousands of miles away. I know. I text with a pastor friend of mine in Nigeria almost daily, and it's instantaneous. But still, loneliness seems to be everywhere. Maybe the problem isn't that technology connected us. Maybe the problem is that it never leaves us alone. Your cell phone's not waiting for you. You're waiting for it. I don't think the phone is really the issue. The issue may be that we've simply forgotten how to sit quietly with our own thoughts. We're inundated with noise every day, all day long. If we're not watching TV, we're on the computer. If we're not on the computer, we're on our phones. We just never have time to be alone. Actually, it kind of feels uncomfortable. And that might be one of the biggest changes I've seen in my lifetime. Until the next time, God bless.